Today's daily recap is for BTG Beyond the Gates. It's for Wednesday, July the 16th, 2025. Okay, press conference is over. Initially, once it sinks into Martin's head that the threat is gone, it's like a weight has been lifted. Now, mind you, remember they canceled the press conference for a family emergency, yet they stayed there as Martin is asking 20 questions of Bill, right? Which is what the reporters started to say. Some family emergency, they still here, whispering in the corner over there. But anyway, he goes, wait a minute. Let me see. And he takes Bill's phone. He goes, isn't that interesting? The timing of this picture, just as I was getting ready to confess everything. And Bill says, what difference does it make? From what I'm hearing, it's a robbery gone bad. That's how they go write it. They shot him in the act of committing a robbery, right? Right. So anyway, he goes, no. Mm-mm. And he just kept talking, and I thought, he's an idiot. As a matter of fact, Vernon says, Martin, okay, lower your voice. We still got reporters in here. I'm just saying. And he just kept going on and on. I'm shaking my head, yo, shaking my head. Bill says, you know what, Martin? You need to go home. You need to patch things up with Smitty and your kids. Just reassure them that everything is okay. They are safe. Because this is handled. Okay? This is handled. So he ends up stomping on out of there the way Martin does. And Vanessa's sitting over there with Joey, and she goes, she's figuring out, okay, that means you did something to somebody. No, you had your people do something to somebody. And he goes, Vanessa, just leave it alone. No, I want to know. As she kept talking, he goes, be careful of what you ask for. Try me. And he says, somebody has been dealt with. Or he said, in other words, somebody been snuffed out. He didn't say snuffed out, but he said something. And she goes, wait a minute. Is that what I think it means? And he looked at Vanessa and he said, it means whatever you can live with and sleep at night. That's what it means. So Malone comes in and she goes, oh, why isn't that your card, buddy? At this point, Vernon and Bill and Martin, I told you, it stomped out. Vernon's gone. And she goes, oh, detective. And she calls him over. Joey and I were just discussing how she made it almost like Joey told her everything. And the cop looked at Joey and he looked at her and he said something like, you need to get a handle on this one. And she goes, nobody gets a handle. And Joey says she needs to learn when to stop talking. And she looks over at Joey because see, Vanessa can feel herself, right? She looking over at Joey. I can say whatever I want. And he goes, you need to stop talking. I said, and he goes, I said, you need to stop talking. And she kind of jumped because sometimes he does scare her. She jumped. He said, it's like this, Vanessa. You need to leave some things alone because this evening can go very well for you. Or if you keep it up, it wouldn't end well for you tonight. And she just looked and she goes, well, I will let you two talk. And she takes her purse and she gets up from the booth. And Joey gets up too. He goes, no, he and I doesn't need to talk. He's here. So I know what that means. Does it mean what I know it means? And Malone said, yep. Sandal. He goes, good. So he told Vanessa, now, let's go get that drink. And then she says something to him. He pulls her close, and they are making out. We're standing right up there in the middle of Orphy Jeans. She's a prominent real estate figure in that community. Everybody knows she's married to Doug, but you know what? It's, hey, whatever. They don't care. She don't care either. Now, Martin gets home, and as soon as he walks in the door, we've got Samantha, Tyrell, and Smitty. They're turning, they look at him because they're standing up. Or they may have been sitting down and stood up when Martin came through the door. I can't remember. Martin's eyes glanced to his suitcase and suitcases packed and stacked right there by the door. And he goes, Smitty, no. He goes, oh yeah. We have been dismissed, put into danger, and lied to for the last time, Martin. You got to go. And oh, Martin says, no, but I'm going to explain to you what happened. I'll tell you everything. And he goes, kids, I need to speak to your father alone. He goes, no, no, nope, nope. They've been lied to too, left in the dark and put in danger. They can hear just what I can hear. And Martin says, well, okay, I'll tell you all everything. And Samantha says, you know what? Maybe, she goes, Pop. No, she looked at, she goes, Dad, maybe Pop should talk to you alone. And then you can tell us after you've done talking to Pop. And Tyrell says, oh no, I want to stay right here and hear it. And she goes, no, we're going to go upstairs. So she hugs Martin and she goes, come on, Tyrell. And he goes, I haven't agreed to. She goes, Tyrell. And he goes, so he kind of gives Martin a little half hug and he goes upstairs with Samantha. Martin tells him the whole story. We finally get to see the whole story. And everybody, they made a mountain out of a self-defense molehill. I don't understand why Vernon is the one that made the biggest mistakes. Why he initiated the cover-up. Martin went ballistic because, yes, of course, Kenny and his brother, they were talking their racist talk to them. Kenny tried to take the tire iron out of Martin's hand, and Martin snatched it back like, no. And then his brother, because Vernon got out the car trying to smooth talk. Listen, fellas, we're okay. We don't need help changing the tire. I'll just go ahead and call the police. They could come out and they go, police don't change tires. And anyway, that's when they get into how much money you got on you. We want to see how green is your money. That's what that came from. And Kenny's brother was getting ready to rough up Vernon. And that's when Martin snapped. When he grabbed his grandfather and was going to hit his grandfather, he took the tire iron and bam, cracked him. And Kenny's brother fell back instantly, right? And then Kenny tries to now jump Martin, and she went ballistic on Kenny's face with that tire iron. And finally, Vernon's like, Martin, that's enough. That's enough, Martin. They're disabled. And Martin finally stops, but adrenaline's pumping. And Vernon went to Kenny's brother and he checked his pulse and he goes, he's dead. And then he went over to Kenny. He goes, this one has a pulse still. So then he calls Malone, Elon, and Elon calls Malone, and Anyway, that's how. And they called Ted so that he could fix up the face of Kenny, which is why Martin couldn't recognize his face because he bloodied it up with that disfigured it with the tire iron. But anyway, Smitty said, Martin, I am so sorry you went through this. And you've had to carry this pain all this time alone. But Martin, it was a clear case of self-defense. Why was there ever a cover up? And he goes, I was in such a daze, I really didn't know what was happening. I just remember Granddad was calling the shots and he told Elon to get me home, and that's what he did. I had to change my clothes because my suit was just, see, because there was so much blood, Smitty. And, for a politician, especially a new congressman, Granddad felt that it would have been bad for my career. And I'm thinking, well, that was stupid. Because guess what? It was an act of self-defense. You were defending yourself and your elderly grandfather, who, by the way, is a senator. Oh my goodness. That was a ridiculous situation made by Vernon. And he brought everybody else into it. So Smitty's like, okay, you know what? I could understand 2 years ago you not saying anything. But when the danger came to town, when Kenny came back, and now our kids and myself are in danger, you still said nothing. He said, well, Granddad didn't want me to, I wanted to tell you, but he said, no, Your grandfather, Vernon Dupree, is not living in this house. Your grandfather is not a part of our marriage. That decision should have been mine and yours. And by the simple fact that you stayed more loyal to your grandfather and you didn't have that kind of loyalty for us, even though you knew we were in danger, even when he made contact, Martin, you still didn't come clean. He goes, no, He says, now the danger is here. I need you for sure, you got to go because you can't be around me and the kids with this danger. You want to know what's, right about that? Kenny knows where they live. Kenny's gotten to them both at the park. So if Martin's not living with them, Kenny still could get to them kids. So that part, I could understand putting them out because doggone it, I'm pissed off at your, right? But saying, because the danger is still here, no, the danger's going to be here even if Martin's gone. I would rather have Martin's crazy behind in the house because we see he can be violent. We got a chance, right? Martin will go ballistic on you. I want that kind of watchdog in the house. So Martin says, no, I assure you, I promise you, he won't come back. He won't be back. And he goes, you can't promise that, Martin. You can't. He was supposed to not come back after he got paid the first time. He goes, he's not coming back because he's dead. Woo! And they left it there. So we'll see tomorrow just how much more Martin tells him, right? Anita's back. And the girls are, Sharon and Tracy are blowing up her phone, and she ain't answering not a call. She's like, oh no, new Debbie Downers. Nope. Nope. You ain't bringing down my mood. And so she gets home, no Vernon, because Vernon's still at Orphy Jean's dealing with the Martin situation. So Vernon comes home. he has to pour himself a drink, and Anita goes, Vernon. And he's like, Anita, how did you know I needed to see you tonight? Oh, and so she goes, uh, she looked at him, she goes, I'm here. And she said, okay, Vernon, what's wrong? And he goes, no, I just missed you so much. How's the tree? She goes, no, no, we're not doing that. She says, because I know you. And I know something is wrong. So she pours herself a drink, because remember, he poured himself a drink. She pours herself a drink. She said, now come over, sit down here, and you tell me. And he said, that trouble from 2 years ago. And she goes, you mean the subject that we don't talk about? He goes, yeah. So she takes a sip of the hard stuff. He goes, it's back. And it's bad. That's my little bug zapper you hear in the background. And it's bad. So probably tomorrow, Vernon is going to tell Anita what's been happening. And she's going to say, why did you not tell me? I've even been home and this has been going on. I'd wondered what was wrong with Martin. And he's going to say that's because I knew this tour meant so much. He's going to have his reason. There. So we'll see. I mean, my whole thing is, are they really going to drop this articulate reunion? I was wondering what they were going to do with that. How are they? Because Anita's not going to be off the show on tour, right? This was supposed to actually be a one night thing. So they could have her do a one night, but I don't know. And everybody, I don't care. I don't give a doggone. So Danny, last but not least, Danny runs into Bill at the country club. And she's like, Bill Hamilton. And from the look on your face, something has gone wrong. What's gone wrong, Bill? And he's like, dear Danny Dupree. And he says, this from I forget what he says to her. She goes, listen, now let's get this straight. I did not come looking for your wife. Your wife barged into my house, right? Knowing how I feel about her, how I feel about your marriage, and your possible, and he looked at her, addition to your family. He goes, oh, so I see, Danny. It's blame the victim. She says, absolutely. You do know me so well. And she goes, now, Bill, what's bothering you? Because I know something's bothering you. And he looks at her. He goes, just had a run-in with your father, Vernon Dupree. And something he told me off, or he did something, or put me in my place, or whatever he said to her. She goes, ooh, ouch. Yeah, that could sting from daddy. Okay, so now tell me what happened that made him do it. Bill ain't gonna tell it at all, because Danny's in the dark, just like Nicole's in the dark with what happened. He's not gonna tell her. But it's so interesting, everybody, the ease that he has when he's talking to Danny now. See, before, when the show first came on, he was just really jerk-faced to her and throwing Haley in her face, even though he's still somewhat, well, he don't throw Haley in her face, but he just says, I'm with Haley now, right? But he's kind of turning to her as a confidant, which is interesting to me. And she's loving it. See, and this is the kind of thing that, let's say she and Andre were together, and Andre would walk in, like, let's say he's going to meet her at the club, because Andre has a membership, and he would see the way she's looking at him at that bar. Her eyes just light up when she's talking to Bill. Yeah, that would mess with Andre. So anyway, everybody, that's it. That is it for today. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Let's go to comment corner, comment corner. Let me breeze right through these. Leah says, so if Martin doesn't remember, what was he going to confess? Was he just guessing that he was also a victim of a hate crime. I covered up and I killed my assailant. Well, guess what, everybody? As he's talking to Smitty, Martin remembered the whole doggone thing. So I guess he does remember. Maybe finding out Kenny's dead unlocked the block. I don't know. Right? Or did Vernon? Did Vernon explain what happened to Martin? That's a shame. When you're watching something, you forget the little details. Like everybody in comment corner, tell me, did Vernon tell Martin what happened? No, Martin told Smitty because he was saying my granddad and I were driving on our way home. We were having a good conversation and we went into what happened. So Martin remembered. And Black Purple Turquoise says, even though I believe Martin is supposed to confess to Smitty, it's way too late for any of that now, in my opinion. He had his chance to come clean with his husband for the last 2 years. Then he, Samantha, and Tyrell could have rallied around him and supported him. What I don't understand is he and Vernon were victims of a hate crime. And seemingly the whole incident with Kenny and his brother was self-defense on their parts. I'm with you, Black Purple Turquoise. Just what I was saying. So why lie and turn it into a crime? To me, that never that that will never make any kind of sense. And for Elon, a chief of police, to say this is not a crime, fellas, you need to let me do what I do best and handle this the right way. For one, Kenny don't get plastic surgery. He gets a jail cell. Period. And his brother don't get covered up. His brother, that's what happens when you're trying to commit a hate crime. Sometimes you die. And then Black Purple Turquoise says, but oh well, it is what it is now. And there will definitely be a tsunami level fallout to come for the entire Dupree Richardson family for quite some time. I'm with you. Sewing Room says, Sonny on GH needs to hire Malone. Leah said, true. That's so funny. You guys are crazy. That is funny. Because look, Malone's good at being a dirty cop. Sewing Room says Joey is finding out just like Sonny on General Hospital. It's hard to find good help. Yes, it is. Go ahead, Smitty. He told Martin to leave. Wait, to the left, to the left. All your stuff is to the left. Yep. The aftermath is going to be interesting. I know Vernon will judge Bill, which he did, for going along with Joey. Martin feels relieved, but now he needs to face Smitty and tell him everything. I like Jacobs encouraging Naomi to call back. That was hilarious. The voice sounded like Sharon. It did sound like Sharon to me too. But it could have been a new person related to June. Thanks for the recap. To me, that voice sounded like one of them articulates, like Sharon. Pearlie says, hopefully Danny will be traveling and modeling. That will take her mind off of Bill and out of contact with Haley. Andre will probably be her photographer, which will keep him in Danny's orbit, but he'll still be pursuing Ashley. I think so. And then Lucy says, great BTG Tuesday episode. Kenny is apparently dead. Now what? I hope we find out exactly what happened 2 years ago to Martin. Well, we did today. It seems more people know. I wonder, was it a hate crime? Yes, it was. Just Case says definitely was a hate crime. They have called him a racist a few times before. I think we will know today, Wednesday's episode, the whole story about Martin and Kenny. Yes, we did find out. And then Lucy said to Jess K, more will be revealed today. Yes, it was. And then Roy says Martin is not this buffoon some of the comments portray him to be. My question is why Does Vernon work so hard to keep the secret? Did Vernon have a major part in what happened that night? No, actually, Martin did what he did to protect Vernon. Martin does not really know what actually happened, except that Vernon is telling him along with the others. No, Martin remembered pretty doggone good when he was talking to Smitty. I hope Smitty doesn't make Martin leave because it might make Martin have a mental breakdown. Well, we shall see if he makes Martin leave. That is why he wanted the press conference and just resigned from office to give him some peace, even if he goes to jail. Now it looks as if Kenny is dead. He may go over the edge. I don't think he wanted Kenny dead, but just leave his family alone. Ultimately, yes, that is what he wanted. But remember what Martin told Bill? I will kill this guy myself to keep him away from my family. Martin would have done something and Kenny would have ended up dead. That is 100% the truth. I fully believe that, everybody. But that's it for Comic Corner. Great comments in Comic Corner. I will be back tomorrow with another daily recap for BTG Beyond the Gates.